Hello, my name is Julie Black-Peart, and I'll be your host today on Health Center right here from Downstate Medical Center. Today, my host is Dr. Dawn Morton-Reyes. She is the Dean of the College of Health-Related Professions. We're right here at SUNY Downstate, and we're very proud to have her today to discuss the role of women in healthcare here in the United States. Dr. Dawn Morton-Reyes has been the only African-American past president of the Physician Assistant Education Association, and she was a Fulbright scholar. So, welcome to the show.
Hello, hi.
Right. Nice,
Thank you
nice
for
to have
having
you on.
me.
Thank you. So, there have been a lot of traditional roles in medicine. Most people, when they go to their healthcare provider, they think of the word doctor as a man. But nowadays, women are really picking up the pace and they're breaking that glass ceiling in terms of roles in medicine. What's your take on that? What do you think the reason is why that is?
Well, I think women have finally come into their own and have wonderful opportunities in education from elementary school to middle school and on through high school and college. We're actively pursuing the sciences, and have been doing so for a number of years. We're nurturers and helpers by biology, if you will.
Indeed.
And the combination of science and understanding science and participating in science from early in our educational process and our desire to help people and take care of people makes us a wonderful match for the healthcare environment. I think as the focus has moved from predominantly males in roles of medicine and science, women have assumed a rightful position.
Indeed.
And I think people have come to realize the importance of having a work-life balance and being able to combine their professional attributes or aspirations rather with their scientific knowledge and skills and interests, in medicine and healthcare is a wonderful blend
let's
for
talk a little bit more about that health balance, that balance of school. I decided as a physician assistant to go back to school in my middle years, and you're a physician assistant as well, which is a wonderful thing. And being a graduate of this school right here at SUNY Downstate, it takes a lot of time and effort to go through one of these types of programs. But traditionally, when you think about going through medical school, that's a lot of years. They do 4 years in medical school, and then they go on to do additional studies after that for another 3 to 5 years, if I'm correct. So, what makes it different when you talk now about maybe some of the more allied healthcare roles when you talk about physician assistant, because it's not always a doctor that people are seeing when they go to the hospital anymore. You've got nurse practitioners. How does that work with women nowadays, those roles?
Well, I think the allied health fields provide a wonderful opportunity again for women to have that work-life balance, to be able to combine their interest in science and technology and medicine and healthcare with their interest in caring for people and taking care of patients. The physician assistant profession, again, is a wonderful match in that regard. Certainly it requires a significant amount of education and training and concentration. Fortunately, it's over a relatively short period of life to begin with, a short period of time rather to begin with. So for students in the allied health fields, they spend their undergraduate years pursuing sciences or social sciences or any major, and then they can enter the physician assistant program for a 2.5-year period of time that is quite concentrated. And I think what makes this profession very attractive is that it is for a focused, shorter period of time, and people can kind of schedule their childbearing, their family commitments and things.
That's really important.
In that period of time, it's more palatable, I think.
I would agree. I would definitely agree.
Understanding that in any field in medicine and healthcare, there's a commitment to lifelong learning that's required.
Right.
You certainly have to continue to study and learn and avail yourself of new technologies and new information in order to stay current. But I think that initial, focused time period is short enough that people are still able to, or women in particular, are still able to, combine some of their other interests.
Right. I know that here at Downstate, when we're interviewing applicants for our program, oftentimes, particularly the women, will say that one of the reasons they chose this type of role is because they couldn't fathom themselves spending that many years going through some of these other disciplines like medicine, and that they wanted to have their children, they wanted to get married, they wanted to be able to have a little bit more control over their life. Not that the study is any less important, of course, but that it really did give them a sense that they could have more of a family life and balance that whole thing out. And I guess the same thing would be pretty much for the occupational therapist and for physical therapists, maybe a little bit different for nurses, but for the most part, it gives them an opportunity to really have a little bit more in terms of lifestyle. So what about some of these other roles? I mean, we're talking about doctors, but what other types of things have women started to do? Maybe the nurse practitioner role, some of these other ones.
Well, what in particular I'd like to talk a little bit about is physical therapy.
Oh, great.
Historically, physical therapists were males. There's a lot of physical activity and physical movement, strength, and manipulation of position and positioning of patients that's required for physical therapy to help people, restore their functionality and being able to ambulate after a surgical procedure or in an injury, or even people who have congenital problems or stroke victims and so forth. And what we're seeing is that as women have become very active in sports in the undergraduate years and have become athletic trainers and are very physically fit, and back in the 50s, women didn't want to perspire, or it wasn't feminine to exercise and to be physical in that regard. The trend has certainly changed, and women are assuming many more active roles in those very physically demanding professions as well, and that's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, because they really have to, there's a lot of manipulation with those types of things, and I guess women didn't think themselves strong enough to be able to handle those kinds of roles. So now, indeed, they're able to do a little bit more of that. So when we want to think about educating our young women today, and how should they start to prepare themselves if they want to think about going into some of the medical professions, and who's telling them what to do, and where are they going to get that information from?
Well, it takes a village to raise a child, and I think everyone has a part to play, including people like you and I who have navigated some of these waters. We have an obligation to inform and educate those coming behind us about the wealth of opportunity that exists in the allied health field. We rely on high school counselors and college counselors and faculty members and teachers at all levels of education to help students understand, and to realize there are so many opportunities in the health professions. When people think of medicine and healthcare, they think of doctors and nurses, maybe paramedics, pharmacists, and then the list starts to trail off. There are well over 100 allied health professions and fields of study for young people and people who are changing careers as well to consider. And so I think we all have a responsibility. Community service organizations, religious organizations are wonderful venues for clinicians to share their knowledge, their expertise, and their skills with young people in particular as they're trying to decide what to pursue.
And they can do a lot of other things if you don't mind, because I'm thinking that if they want to get into some of these traditional or non-traditional healthcare roles, the things that they have to be proficient at when they're in school is the sciences, right? The math, right? And math is an area where young girls traditionally have had some area of struggle. So it's great for parents to really foster these areas of study in children. Then there's things like health fairs, right, that they can go to, right? And what are some of these other, I didn't realize there were quite so many different allied health.
There's
Which
so
other
many
ones
fields.
are there?
Well, there's a full range of therapeutic professions: recreational therapy, occupational therapy, respiratory therapy,
you break it down into all
physical
these different
therapy,
areas. Yes.
dance therapy, music therapy.
Right.
Then there are the technology areas, med tech and rad tech and laboratory technology. So, whether you want to provide direct patient care or you want to work behind the scenes, there's so many professions available.
Right.
Certainly having a strong academic background in the sciences is very, very important. You have to be able to understand and utilize a wide range of scientific concepts. Certainly math application skills are important, not necessarily to the level of calculus, but certainly, which tends to scare many students off, but certainly algebra helps you, conduct the basic scientific calculations that are necessary.
Right.
So the sciences are important, the biological sciences as well, laboratory experiences in high school. And I encourage our young people to not shy away from the laboratory sciences in high school, because that positions them very well to take the science courses in college. And
Right.
you know, the labs in college are demanding, and there's lots of work and lots of, you know, testing and so forth. But I think it's important for our young people to know not to run away from the sciences
It can be a
in
lot
middle
of fun,
school and high
too.
school.
Yeah,
Yes.
it could be a lot of fun too. Joe, you remember the years when you were doing dissecting?
Sure,
and
sure.
So you definitely need some of those basic formulas in order to do things like prescribe a medication properly.
Right, to
and
calculate
just
the
like-
weights
Right.
and, you know, the dosage based on weight and surface area, and all of those things are
Right.
important, but they do require basic math skills, not
good discipline.
advanced calculations. And I think that's one of the myths that I'd like to dispel for people considering their health careers, that they have to have, you know, extraordinary background in the math area. Basic concepts are very important.
It's not as scary as some people would think it is. That takes me back a little bit. Dr. Susan Smith McKinney, she was the very first African American female doctor here in the United States, and she graduated from New York Medical College, and I think it's 1870. And thinking back, that was really a milestone for her to really break the glass ceiling and pave the way for
Right,
people
right.
like yourself and myself to be able to go into the healthcare professions. So it's far for young women to think that all that they have is just, you know, doctor or lawyer, you know, it's not like Indian chief, but just to do something that's a little bit different. And then you have other roles. There's the military, right? And then you've got women who are involved in the political aspect of healthcare. What other fields are there that they can go into that are not so much just medicine, that
So
they have to use some
traditional
medical?
roles, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, we're seeing women in architecture, in design, in construction, in electronics. We're seeing many more women engineers and all forms of engineering, you know, areas of engineering. And so I think once women, you know, fortunately for our generation, have had wonderful role models and have started to envision ourselves in other capacities than the traditional roles, bringing our traditional background with us, but certainly envisioning ourselves in a different profession, or those that we hadn't been, you know, considered, you know, feminine roles in the past, really
Now
is
we
the
really
first
can do
step.
it, right.
And again, we see so many role models, women in aerospace and astronomical, or, you know, astronomy rather, and other areas of study that were not traditional women's roles. I think once we get past the fear of the sciences, and we envision ourselves in a different position, a different, you know, setting, the you know, opportunities are endless.
A lot of directions to go into.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about here at Downstate, because we do have 6 schools at the College of Health Related Professions, and we've got the medical school, we've got the, I'm missing one now.
Well, we have the School of Public Health.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking
And
of. Right.
which offers
Biomedical
master's and doctoral level education in public health, and focusing on urban health and community service, as well as international or global health as well. So it's a very dynamic and responsive area of study. It provides an opportunity for students of all backgrounds to build on their previous experience, their previous education, and really help develop programs and processes and policies to change the face of healthcare here, you know, in Brooklyn, throughout the city, throughout the state and country and the world.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about each one. Let's start with PT. All right, so what's that program all about?
So our physical
bit.
therapy program is unique in that it does not require students to come in with a baccalaureate degree. They have to have, you know, at least 80 credits. Closer to 90 is probably preferred, and some good community service experiences and health shadowing, volunteer experiences, and familiarity with the profession. We want to know that they've made an informed decision about pursuing physical therapy. And in 3 years of study, or after 3 years of study, they receive a baccalaureate in health sciences and a doctorate in physical therapy.
Oh, see, now that's, people don't, I guess, think too much about getting
Right.
a doctorate degree after 3 years of study. So,
Right.
and all the programs require some level of community service and that sort of thing.
Right.
And what about the occupational therapy program?
Occupational therapists help individuals restore their functionality, their fine motor coordination and activities of daily living. And our program is very well respected throughout the city and the state and as well throughout the country. And it's a master's program, so students come in with a baccalaureate degree. What's interesting about their backgrounds is that they don't have to have a science major.
Oh,
More
okay.
commonly, our occupational therapists come in with a background in the creative arts and psychology, in the social sciences, and they're able to build on their experiences and their creativity to help, with 2 years of study, help individuals restore their functionality.
See, now that's good to know. So, young women, you're out there, you don't have to have a background in healthcare in order to pursue some of
Right.
these healthcare related fields. Okay, so we've got diagnostic medical imaging, which is a little different because it's not so much a patient hands-on career.
Well, it
but
is patient
as
care
much-
in
it is?
terms of performing the appropriate studies, using very safe sound waves to create images of bodily structures and of the vasculature and of course of the developing fetus. And so it's a very dynamic profession. What's a little different is that the students spend as much time, touching patients as they do providing or learning how to operate the machinery.
Right.
And so there's a technical component, there's a physics component in that curriculum.
Okay, yeah.
Students come in with 2 years of undergraduate work and enter our diagnostic medical imaging program. We're very proud to offer one of the only programs in New York City and state that awards a baccalaureate degree following 2 years of study in diagnostic imaging. And that positions our students very well, or our graduates very well for the job market.
So it really is hands-on.
It's hands-on.
It's not your day-to-day, every day, like you would in like an emergency room, but it's certainly very
Right.
important. So you can check and see what the baby size is, and check the baby size. Oh, that's
It's
wonderful.
very rewarding.
It is, absolutely.
And what we're finding is that our sonographers are working in every setting, certainly in inpatient and hospital settings, but also in ambulatory care settings and so forth.
Okay.
And as there are more and more emergency rooms or ambulatory
Yeah.
care centers and urgent care centers, the use of sonography in the ambulatory setting is certainly
picking up.
increasing.
Okay, so then we've got physical, we did physical therapy, we got PA.
Well, physician assistant, and I always have to be careful because that is my profession, but as the dean of the college, I oversee several academic programs. I don't want to favor just the PA program, but I think choosing a career as a physician assistant was probably the best professional decision I ever made. And I think it's provided a chance for me to not only take good care of patients and impact the quality of life and provide patient education, but it has also given me an opportunity to influence others and help empower patients to care for themselves in the most proactive way possible. And one of the little things I share with my students is that patients see a provider once or twice a month at the most. The rest of the time of the year, they're managing themselves.
True.
And we as PAs have an obligation to help inform them and educate them about their conditions, their medical concerns, but also about maintaining their health and wellness, finding a balance between management of their concerns and care for their children and their families and all of the other roles that women play. And it's important for women to be healthy and strong and in good shape in every way, shape, and form.
I like talking about it too, since we share the same profession, and I always tell you that I really appreciate you as a mentor for myself, as you were the head of the program when I was here. But indeed, PAs are very well known for being huge on patient education, which is very important, and really filling a void in healthcare where actually at a time where we're not having as many doctors going into the primary care field, that's really a growing place that we'd like to see more healthcare.
What we find is that PAs are able to realize the benefits or the return on investment very quickly. So after finishing college and going into a 2-year program, or finishing their prerequisites and going into a 2 or 2.5 year program, they're able to enter the job market very quickly,
Yeah.
and not only take care of patients but earn a living.
Mm.
And in this economy, you know, we do have to be concerned about the ability to manage the debt load that students are carrying prior to practice, and also be able to, you know, for them to be able to work quickly after coming out of school. And the job market has been very robust in
Yes.
the PA profession throughout the
Indeed,
the time.
I know that U.S. News and World Report every year they have this issue where they discuss trends in healthcare, and this profession is one that's constantly been on upward
Right.
track. So we have other schools here too. Which ones have we?
Well, we haven't
Still
talked
talk
about the
about-
School of Graduate Studies,
Yes, let's talk about
which is it's a smaller school compared to the others, but it's really very dynamic and important in the academic medical center, or in an academic medical center such as ours. Our researchers come in from all over the country and all over the world, in fact, and spend 5-7 years here involved in biomedical research. They provide some of the instruction in the undergraduate curricula, as well as lab assistance in some of the programs in medicine and nursing, and in the school of in our school as well. And they've become excellent scientists that move on to assume great positions throughout the country as, you know, the progenitors of scientific information. And so that's very, very valuable.
So
Of course, our School of Nursing is one we haven't
Right.
mentioned as well,
Yeah.
that provides educational opportunities for nurses in all advanced practice roles, and that's something our
that's
dean is very proud of.
Nurse anesthesiology.
I
right?
wouldn't be able to list all of the
Yeah.
programs within nursing,
Yeah.
and I would hate to miss one, but it's all of those advanced practice
Right.
roles: nurse practitioner,
The midwifery.
nurse midwifery,
yes.
in collaboration with the midwifery education program that is
here.
offered in CHIRP. And as well as, you know, clinical nurse specialists, nurse
Right.
anesthetists,
There-
and
there are a lot
so
of,
there are a number of programs within the College of Nursing.
I've heard you made mention of possibly a rad tech program coming at some
Right,
point too.
right.
And then I feel like there's another.
Well, one area that we haven't talked about as well is our medical informatics
Oh,
program.
that's what I was thinking about. Yes,
Medical informatics is a
yes.
dynamic and evolving profession, and our president, in I think his first inaugural address, talked a little bit about the importance of medical informatics in
Yes,
managing
indeed.
patient information and making that information available to patients as they move around the country, and, you know, portability of their health information and so forth. And our medical informatics students come in with a background either in healthcare, but many come in with a background in technology
Okay.
and computer science or computer work, and they're interested in combining their interest in healthcare with their interest in computer technology and database management and retrieval systems. And, you know, we have a wealth of information in the medical community regarding patients, as you know, that's recorded in the medical record, and to be
Right.
able to navigate those databases and to use that information, of course, protecting patients' confidentiality and privacy being of hallmark importance. But being able to look at trends through analysis of data sets is a very important and rewarding aspect of healthcare, and that helps inform decision making going forward. So our students are mostly adults working during the day. It's a program that we offer in the evening in medical informatics.
So now that's good for our women who are, you know, at home with the
Right,
children during the
right,
day, and then
right.
they have time at night.
Right, and in many cases, our students are, again, working full-time, and they're here, you know, 2 or 3 nights per week during the school year, and even in the summers. And after about a 2-year program, they're able to receive their master's degree in medical informatics.
And our School of Public Health.
Our School of Public Health also is offers its courses in the evening, except in the summer. I think in the summer they may be offered during the day. But we try to be as flexible as possible in creating educational opportunities that are available to students when they need them. And so some are in the day and some are in the evening.
Yeah, some of the other programs, I know, like the PT and the OT and the PA, those are really full-time programs,
They
right?
really
we have to have a good family support system behind us in order to be successful in any
Right.
of these kinds of careers, whether you're going to medical school, whether you're going to nursing school, whatever it is, because that foundation behind us is what really makes it work.
Right.
For our watching audience, any last words about women in healthcare?
Well, I want to first thank you for providing
You're
this
very welcome.
opportunity for
Thank
me
you.
to talk about what I love, and that's health professions and the opportunities that exist for students of all backgrounds to really share their knowledge, their skill, you know, their creativity and their heart with patients who so desperately need their care. And there's so many opportunities available in the healthcare industry that I just am thrilled to help people think broadly about the different professions and different ways in which you can be involved. I think the future is very bright in healthcare, and I think it's bright for women as well, because we are caretakers biologically.
Yes, we are.
And we're scientists and informed decision makers and excellent clinicians as well.
Right.
And it's just about time that we're, you know, in the healthcare industry doing what we do and
Yes.
doing it well.
Very, very smart, because over the years, women have been seen in healthcare, and all the time it's just nurse, nurse, nurse. Well, that's great, because nurses are a wonderful and very viable.
It takes
and
an
important
entire
part.
team.
It really does. But when you really think about it, all these different healthcare professions of women really pulling it together, it's a wonderful thing. We've broken that glass ceiling. We've made it possible for women to have some of these wonderful, non-traditional and even traditional roles,
Right,
and
right.
just really pull it together. I hope that young women out there today will really think about what they'd like to do, and that this program has been informative and given them some ways to think about other things to do, and really take a look at the healthcare professions. There's a place for us everywhere, from the military to government, lobbying up in Albany for healthcare reform, all kinds of things, and there definitely is a place for that. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this has been Julie Black-Peart for Health Center here at Downstate Medical Center. Thank you for watching.